Like literally on a cliff right now. I would love to talk to you about pleasure today. Pleasure. Just notice how that even feels when I say that. Where is it landing in your body? Are you feeling resistance? Are you feeling triggered? That's very common. A lot of people that I have been speaking to and working with one-on-one, I'm noticing this pattern that they view pleasure as this thing that they're not allowed to have a lot of. That they have to only allow pleasure in at certain times and in certain ways and in certain forms. And it's really limiting. It's really limiting because pleasure can come in so many ways. And I truly believe that we are here to enjoy this life. And we would not have the capability, the capacity to experience pleasure and bliss if we weren't supposed to find that and keep finding that in new ways and expand into that every day. Another thing that I have been witnessing in some people that I've been working with is that they are feeling unworthy of experiencing pleasure, and also like shame or guilt, or like pleasure is this negative thing. It has this negative bubble around it. And I would like to invite you to actually feel into that and ask yourself if that is even yours, or if that is a conditioned societal response to pleasure. I had to do a lot of shadow work around pleasure and receiving pleasure and experiencing pleasure and becoming this pleasure-centered being that I am today. And what I mean by shadow work around it is society has told us that we're not allowed to feel good, and that we have to suffer and we have to hustle and that we have to do all these things for other people and not worry about our own joy, happiness, and pleasure. So when I say shadow work, I was looking at what it is that came up for me, which was mostly shame and guilt, because pleasure has always been this very accessible thing for me, and like I was always being told, like, you can't live this way, you can't be pleasure-centered because then you're selfish and you don't care about anyone else's needs, when really, like, you want me to make you happy but not myself happy? That's pretty backwards. So I sat with it and I came to my own understanding of what pleasure was and how I wanted to incorporate it in my life, instead of listening to everyone else's opinions about it. So I invite you, if you're feeling this shame or guilt like I was speaking about, to just question it gently and ask yourself, is this actually my opinion, or is this something that was ancestrally put upon me, or society put on me, or I was taught by my family? And maybe you can find little ways to invite pleasure in. For me, it's been quite the opposite. It's not something I've been running away from. It's been something that I'm was seeking, and seeking in excess. So there is definitely a balance. I feel there's definitely a balance, and finding that is the journey. It's the journey, and it's fun. And give yourself grace along the process of finding your own balance. Finding pleasure in little ways is really practicing presence. I find pleasure in caressing my body. I find pleasure in showering and feeling the water on my body. I feel pleasure in walking barefoot on the earth. I feel pleasure in eating a really nutritious meal that somebody cooked for me or I cooked for myself. I find pleasure in dancing and movement. They're all, I feel like society has put pleasure in this box of only being geared towards sex, and it's not. It's so much more than that. And when we can open ourselves up and expand ourselves to this capacity of feeling pleasure, our lives will be so much juicier and so much more fun, and you just invite so much more happiness into your life because you're actually figuring out what it is that makes you excited and feels good to you. Everyone's idea and everyone's experience of pleasure is going to be completely different. And that's the fun and unique part about life and individuality. So I invite you to just question what it is that you feel around pleasure, and ask yourself how you can open up in little ways to inviting more pleasure in your life. And if it resonates with you that you do have triggers and resistance around pleasure, then do some shadow work and really witness what it is that is your ideas and others. That way you can rewire and reprogram what it is that pleasure is to you. And also, if you feel like working with me, we can release that together, and I can give you exercises and hold you accountable to releasing what it is you think pleasure is, and releasing the shame and the guilt. Life is meant to have fun and experience pleasure. I truly believe that, and I am a pleasure-centered being. I claim that as being a pleasure-centered being. And maybe this, watching this can spark something in you and invite more pleasure and play into your life. I hope. I love you. And I hope you have a magical day full of luscious encounters, and stay sexy and spread love.